Hello and welcome back to our read aloud of The Trouble with Antlers, aka Melvin's Rampant Rack. Today we're going to read chapter 9 in this story. If you'll remember right at the end of chapter 8, Amelia had been in her history class with Mr. Sloth, and they're exiting the classroom as the bell is ringing, so they're all late for class, and Amelia's the last one to exit. And as she comes out the door, she encounters a young man coming in, and it turns out that it is Melvin, in clothes this time. All right, chapter 9, Escape. Melvin scented her first. He tried to step back, but there were students everywhere, all shoving forward, trying to make it inside the classroom, and then it was too late. He stood face to face with Amelia. This just wasn't possible. He couldn't believe the counselors had done this to him. Amelia's eyes lit up when she saw him. Melvin? Dang it. Melvin clapped his hands to his head, swung around, and shoved his way through the mass of bodies. His classmates parted for him swiftly. Probably didn't want to become his latest antler victim. As soon as the path opened, Melvin took off at a dead run. He made it around the corner just as his antlers exploded. The right one slammed into the row of lockers, knocking him to the left. Thankfully, the bell had already rung, so there weren't any students to flatten as he fell sideways. He flung out an arm, shoved off the lockers to his left, and staggered forward. Melvin? Fantlers! She was following him! Melvin poured on the speed and barreled down the hallway. He slid around the corner, saw an open door, and not even caring which classroom it was, he barreled inside. Polly was the first person he saw. Then he noticed the easels and canvases. Scat! This wasn't art class, was it? Melvin Moose, what are you doing? Mrs. Spider glowered at him from her spot at the front of the room. Mrs. Spider, I'm my antlers, the human, Melvin leaned forward to put his hands on his knees, and his antlers knocked over an easel. He jerked upright, and a painting came with him. He reached up, but couldn't quite reach the painting. Sorry, she's out there. She's going to see. I need to. He swung in a circle. There was nowhere to hide. Nowhere. Where was he going to hide? Polly stood. Where is she? Melvin pointed to the door, still trying to figure out where he could go. The windows. He hurried toward them. They should be wide enough, though he might have to. Bam! Melvin grabbed his head and staggered back. Damn it. He'd rammed his brow tines into the glass. Polly walked to the door, peeked out, then stepped back in. She's out there, all right. I think Katrina's distracting her. Melvin blanched. That probably wasn't a good thing. Katrina could be a bit abrasive. Still, if Katrina had delayed Amelia, he owed her big. She saw me, not my antlers, but she was leaving history just as I was going in, and Melvin Moose! Yes, Mrs. Spider, I'm going out there to deal with a human. You figure things out. Get those antlers under control right now, young man. Melvin nodded and almost tipped over again. Staggering forward, he flung his head back, overcompensating by about 10 million. And his antlers hit the windows again. His feet slipped, and he landed on the floor with a loud thud. Mrs. Spider shook her head and pointed her finger at him. Figure it out, Melvin, now! The minute the door closed behind Mrs. Spider, Polly bolted to Melvin's side. Jake, help me! Jake leapt forward, and with the ease of experience, the two of them ducked under Melvin's antlers, grabbed an arm each, and hauled him upright. What's the plan? Jake asked. Window. Polly looked at the window, then back at Melvin. Not sure you're gonna fit, man. Just open the dewlapped window. Shaking his head, Polly unlatched the window and shoved it outward. You're never going to fit, Melvin. Maybe if the entire pane wasn't here, but it only opened so far. Safety, you know. Guys, you better hurry, Kayla called from the door. Mrs. Spider's on her way back, and the human's with her. Melvin cursed, shoved Polly out of the way, tipped his head back, grabbed the window pane, and shoved with all his moose strength. There was a loud crack, and the hinge holding the window in place, keeping it from opening too wide, broke loose. Another shove, and the entire window broke away and fell. Not hesitating, Melvin climbed up onto the windowsill, turned sideways, tilted his head one way, then the other, and finally managed to get one antler through the window. He tried to do the same for the other, but that stupid painting was still hanging on his antler. Polly! Yeah, got it. Polly climbed onto a shelf, grabbed the painting, and with a jerk detached it from Melvin's rack, sending it to the floor with a clatter. Melvin twisted, turned, and pulled until with a loud clang his rack sprang free, unbalancing Melvin and sending him off the ledge with a yelp. Melvin landed on his back with enough force all the breath was expelled from his lungs. His rack hit the ground beneath him, rattling his brain for about the 17 millionth time that morning. Polly leaned out the window above him. You okay, Melvin? Melvin gave him a thumbs up, still trying to catch his breath. Thank goodness Art was on the first floor, because he wasn't sure he would have survived anything higher. Polly Porcupine, get down from there this instant! Polly grinned at Melvin and disappeared back into the classroom. Melvin slowly rolled over and belly crawled his way beneath the windows, crawling and crawling until he was certain he was far enough away from the art classroom he wouldn't be visible to anyone looking out its windows. He slowly sat up and set his back against the wall. He leaned forward and settled his head into his hands. He needed to focus. Just focus. The minutes ticked by slowly as he tried to convince his moose that antlers were not a requirement at the moment. His moose, however, was a stubborn pain in the rump. And here is a picture of Melvin after he managed to push out the window and landed on the ground himself. And there's Polly in the window looking out at him, making sure he's okay. And that is the end of chapter 9. Tomorrow we will continue our read aloud with chapter 10. Hope you'll join us then. Have a good day. Bye.